Hey besties. Okay, so I want to do a video today where I'm talking about the books I'm going to read this year / my book recommendations. As you can see, I have a lot of books. There's even more than this that you cannot see, but I want to be giving some book recommendations I just want to be showing you guys like what I'm going to be reading this year, because I am not good at keeping my goals. I'm very bad at like finishing books. Like I'll start a book and really like it, and then I'll just never finish it. I get like halfway through and I'm done with it, and I want to do better at that this year. Through Goodreads, I like set a goal for the year. I'm doing 12 books this year. Kind of wild for me. Some of y'all might be doing like 50 books, which is insane to me. How do you read that much? How do you finish that many books? I don't know. And obviously, I like to read. I'm a reader, but I'm just really bad at finishing them. And I think like smaller books like this, like these little ones, I can get through super easily, especially like Christian books. But like I never seem to get above like 12 books a year. So that means 1 book a month. That's my goal. And I'm hoping to like go over that goal. But again, it's just that, a goal, 12 books a year. So let me show you what I read for the month of January that I'm still finishing, because as of today it's January, or as of today it is February 1st, but I still haven't finished this book yet. I'm like halfway through. I literally can grind through it. I just need to get done with it. Are you kidding me? That's like the 4th time I've dropped this plant. Oh my gosh. Okay, BRB. Okay, so the top of it is doing okay. Mooney bit it. Little turd bag. It's too big and all of the soil just fell out. And I've been meaning to this for a while. I think I'm gonna propagate it the best I can and just throw away the bottom because it's rough. Hold on. Okay, back to what I was saying. Had a little interruption. It's okay. So I have been reading The Dinner by Herman Koch. I think that's how you pronounce it. Anyways, I've been reading this book about halfway through. And it's really good. I just haven't finished it yet. So this is my goal to finish this book before I start another one. And I'm really trying to like finish books before I start another one, because normally what happens is I start another one and then I never finish the one that I was originally reading. So let me give you the books that I plan on reading within the next couple months. I often thought for a long time that I had to read all the classics before I could read what I wanted to read, or like before I could read mysteries or literally whatever. Found out quickly that that's not true. Sometimes I really love classics. The majority of my books are classics. There's just something about a certain type of classic that I don't particularly like, and that is what I tried to read for a long time, so that's why I never really got things done. So these are the books I'm going to be reading for the next few months. So I have been literally reading Anne Frank since I went to New York in August of 2021. Like, girl, it is not that hard to read. It is not that hard. I just literally like set it down for a few months. Oh, my mommy's pulling in. I'll sit it down for a few months and then I won't pick it up for like another few months. So I'm about halfway through this as well. You can probably hear my mom. So I want to finish that this month too. And so my goal is to finish 1 book a month, but to try and read more than that, if that makes sense. So after I read that, I'm going to read We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I've read like the first chapter. I've read the first like few chapters of it, and it's pretty good. I just want to really dedicate time to this. I watched the movie before I knew it was a book, and I really liked it. And it's a very like immersive world that I don't want to be caught up in other things while I'm reading this. So then this is the book I've been wanting to read for a while. John Mark Comer is one of my favorite authors. So I'm going to read Loveology by him. It's just about like marriage and relationships and all of that fun stuff. And then I'm going to read Rebecca by Delphine Desmondin. This is a book that I'm really, really interested in reading. Like I said, I've been trying to read more books that like I actually find interesting and that I want to finish and that I want to read. And this is one of them. She's kind of chunky. It's a classic. I think it's a classic from my understanding. So yeah, I want to read that. Then I want to read The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is another classic that a lot of people talk about, and it's a pretty short read. So I'm hoping to get through this soon too. I apologize if you hear my dog barking. Hold on. Who knows if I'm actually gonna get through all those. The one that I'm most worried about is Rebecca, just because it is a little bit longer. It's a little bit of a longer read, so I don't know how I'm gonna do that. But I also decided that during the fall this year, I want to dedicate a month or two to Little Women. So this is my copy of Little Women. It's like the newer 2019 Greta Gerwig edition of this book. Little Women is one of my favorite stories of all time, but it's long and it's immersive, and I really want to take my time with this. I don't want to be rushed. I don't want to skim through it. I really want to like soak it up and annotate it and just really, like I said, like immerse myself in the world. I was in a play that actually got canceled because of COVID when I was still in high school, still in public high school. I played Beth. Little Women has always had like a very big importance in my life, and when the 19 version by Greta Gerwig came out, of course everyone loves it. You can't not love it. It's just an amazing story, and I want to read the original material that goes along with that. So another thing that I wanted to get into this year was I have a copy of Notes from the Underground and The Double and Other Stories by I don't know how to say his first name, Dostoevsky, however you say it. People get mad at me when I say it wrong. Everyone pronounces it differently. I don't care. It's a Russian classic. This book has many stories in it, and I've read Notes from the Underground and I think another story. I can't remember what it's called. I'd have to look. But I want to try and read a few more stories of this. I'm trying to get into the world of Russian philosophy more. I have a few of Dostoevsky's works, like Crime and Punishment, The Brothers Karamazov. I think that's how you say that. Don't judge me if that's not how you say that. And I have a few other historical, philosophical works. By Plato, I have The Republic. I want to try to get into The Plague. I've read a few of other Camus' works, and they're amazingly beautiful and genius and just amazing. And I haven't read The Plague yet, so that's another one on my list of things I want to read. I think I've already talked about this book in another video, but Holier Than Thou by Jackie Hill Perry. She was a speaker at Passion, a conference, at the beginning of this year, and I bought her book and I really want to read that. And I'm trying to not only read a lot of fiction, more specifically historical fiction, but also Christian books as well. The two other Christian books that I want to get through this year is Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortlund. I read the first couple chapters of this book last year, but I never got through it. It just wasn't the right time for me to read it. But it's a really beautiful book, and everyone talks about it. And then I want to try, this is ambitious of me, but I want to try to read St. Augustine's Confessions. All of my friends talk about this book and about how amazing it is, and so I really want to read it. So this list definitely might change throughout the year depending on how many new books I get. I bought a lot of books last year, and I want to try to be more aware of that. And a lot of the books that I bought I haven't read yet, or I haven't even touched since I bought, which is very not good for me. So this is the last book that I want to try to read this year. No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. I believe that's how you say it. I read The Setting Sun by him, and it was an amazing, amazing, amazing book. Definitely really like dark and deals with a lot of heavy subject matter. If you're not really into that type of thing, and just in general, I recommend that you look up the trigger warnings on Goodreads or on Google, because both of those two works by Dazai are very, very hard to read and get through. And then, last but not least, I don't have my Bible with me right now, but I want to try to get through the whole Bible. I've read all of the New Testament and a good chunk of the Old Testament, but I want to fully read it. I'm missing obviously most of the Old Testament, and so I want to get a lot of that done too throughout the year. But yeah, those are the books that I want to read this year, and I'm well aware that that is over 12 books. I don't know how many it is, but well over 12. So some of them I might not get to, some of them I might get to if I make room, or if I get done with other books sooner. As you saw, some of them are smaller, some of them are larger. So yeah, my goal is to get at least 12 of those, but hopefully more. Now I want to talk about the books that I read last year, the majority of last year, of what I can remember. Some of them might be from 2020. I want to go through those and for kind of book recommendations, talk about them, what I liked about them, what I didn't like about them. Oh, I also meant to say, I try to read one Harry Potter at least during the fall, but I might exchange that with the whole Little Women thing, because usually I like to sit through these two because they're super nostalgic for me, and I just love Harry Potter. So anyways, back to what I was saying. I'm gonna give some book recommendations on what I've already read in the last year. So let's do the first one. One of my biggest one of the biggest books that was ambitious for me to read last year was Dune. And disclaimer, I have not finished it. This is a book that I loved, but I just haven't found the time to get through because you really have to focus and pay attention, and that's just something I don't really have the time for right now. I have the movie version. I'm a little bit farther than that way through. I'm about halfway through, if I had my guess. Oh, yeah, I'm about halfway through-ish. If you know anything about Dune, you know that it is a very difficult and time-consuming read. It's definitely something that you have to put in, like I said, a lot of time, a lot of energy into understanding. And fortunately, it was easy to understand for me for the most part. I just had to be paying attention, which is something that is hard for me to do. So if you liked the movie, the new movie, I haven't seen I believe it's the 80s version, but if you saw the 2021 movie and you liked it, and you like reading and you like sci-fi and that sort of thing, definitely pick this up and give it a try. It's not for everyone. It is, like I said, it's difficult. It's a hard read, but it is so worth it if you can get through it. I really hope to finish it this year too. We'll see if it happens. I don't know. So first is, you probably saw the other edition of this, The Setting Sun by Osamu Dazai. Probably saying that wrong again, but this is the first Dazai book that I read. It's very beautiful, poetic. It's originally written in Japanese, I believe, and it was translated, so depending on the translation, it can be easier or harder to read. Let me see which one this was translated by. The edition was translated by Donald Keane, and I really loved this. Again, like with the other one, it covers extremely dark subject matter, so if you're interested in reading this, or if you like that sort of thing, definitely look up the trigger warnings before on Goodreads or Google, because it is a really heavy book, but it is, if you can get through it and it's not triggering for you or anything like that, it is a super beautiful read. Yeah, so that's that one I'm going to talk about. So then, this is a classic, The Great Gatsby. I feel like everyone has read this book or has to read it for an assignment. I read this for an assignment. I think I read this like 3 years ago actually, but then I reread it in 2021, I think, the beginning of 2021. I reread it at some point between like 2021 and 2020, yeah. This is genuinely one of my favorite classics. I know it's kind of a cliche read, but I do really think it's good. It's really short. If you want to get into classics, or you're interested in the 20s, or literally if you like anything about the synopsis, you will like this book. It is an easy read. F. Scott Fitzgerald is a genius, and this is a very, I believe that it's semi-autobiographical. I could be wrong, but I feel like I've heard that somewhere. But yeah, F. Scott Fitzgerald is considered one of the greatest writers of all time, so if you want to get into reading, definitely pick this up first. yeah. Sorry if the lighting is changing, the sun is going down, I'm using that as my lighting. But if you are not really sure where to start with reading, or start with classics or whatever, definitely try this one. It's one of my favorites. Okay, so then we have Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. This is an amazing book. One of, I'm not a super huge YA fan, but this book is so captivating and just really great storytelling on John Green's part. If you can't tell, I'm obsessed with John Green. I've read almost all of his books, and they're all just works of art, even if they are YA. But yeah, it's about a girl who has, I believe it's OCD disorder. This whole like mystery kind of coming of age, a typical YA. It has some romance. It's a really great book. Again, it is a little bit, I wouldn't say it's dark, but it does deal with some heavy subject matter, like death and OCD and like different things like that. If you're interested, check it out. It's pretty short read. It's pretty good. And the next one is another classic that is super cliche and that everyone knows about and that you probably were forced to read in school if you had that sort of thing. But it's To Kill a Mockingbird. A lot of people hate this book because of the racism and different social issues at the time. Well, not at the time currently, but I believe this book is set in the 20s or 30s, I can't remember. I read this a while ago and then I ended up rereading a good chunk of it. But it is set in the perspective of a little girl named Scout, and her dad, Atticus, is a lawyer, I believe, and he ends up, or an attorney? A lawyer or an attorney? I don't remember. He ends up representing an African-American man in this super crazy case, and like that was obviously very unheard of for the time. And yes, there is a lot of racism in it, but I think that's like the point of the book. It is to show the social injustice that there was so long ago, and you can see reflection of it to today. It's just a really great historical book, but it's through the lens of a child, so it's very interesting and very captivating, and a classic that I think everyone should read. The second to last book I'm going to talk about, this is Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. I believe it's originally written in German, so I could be pronouncing that wrong. But this is a great introduction to philosophical classics, or I believe it's considered a classic, but if you're interested in philosophy, definitely pick this up. This is super interesting. It tells the life of a Buddhist monk named Siddhartha that kind of goes through this journey through enlightenment. It has a lot of like Buddhist themes, and obviously I'm a Christian, so it's a very different perspective for me, and I really loved it, and it was really interesting. I believe it touches on nihilism and existentialism, one of those, I can't remember, I can't remember if it touches on existentialism or nihilism, one of the two. I believe it's existentialism, but it's super interesting if you want to get into classics that are more philosophical. Oh, the second to last book I'm going to talk about, I think I just said that with this book, but then I remembered this book. I read The Stranger by Albert Camus. He is a French philosopher. Again, these last three are leaning a bit more into the philosophical classics side of things. Very, very short. If you've heard of Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, this is a similar kind of storyline, but obviously very short. This is Crime and Punishment, and this is The Stranger. This is a really interesting book. I believe it touches on, the difference is, I could be mixing these around, but I believe Crime and Punishment deals with more as a crime, and he does the crime and he's happy about it, and then he regrets the crime later. I believe that's like the premise of Crime and Punishment, but this one is he does a crime and he doesn't regret it, and it's very I wouldn't necessarily say it's an unreliable unreliable narrator, but you really get in this man's head of this crime, that he doesn't believe that he did anything wrong, but it's a pretty like horrific crime. So this is really interesting, again, if you want to get into philosophical classics. Okay, again, I apologize for the lighting. I'm aware that it's really bad. The last book I'm going to talk about is Notes from Underground by Dostoevsky. This is like I said earlier, this is a collected works. I believe Crime and Punishment is like, or I'm sorry, I believe Notes from Underground is like this chunk of it. So it's not very big at all. Honestly, it's been a really long time since I've read this, but I really, really loved it. It was a really great book. Great intro to Russian philosophy, which is definitely a harder genre to get into. Okay, I just turned on my light. I'm sorry the lighting changed. It's getting a little bit too dark. I probably should have turned this on way earlier. I'm so sorry for the lighting. Again, this is just a really awesome book. Again, if you want to get into philosophical classics, it's definitely a bit harder to read. I don't think that you should read this as your first philosophical classic. Definitely maybe read Camus or something else like that. But yeah, this is a really great book if you're interested. It has a lot of like symbolism, and you get to like really like read between the lines with what the narrator is saying. And yeah, it's very, very interesting. I'm gonna read the synopsis basically because I don't remember the entire premise. I just remember like the philosophical ideas that I got out of it. It's about an underground man who lives on the fringes of society. He is impassioned, manic. This character is plagued by shame, guilt, and alienation, argues that the reason is merely a flimsy construction built on humanity's essentially irrational core, if that makes sense. Basically, the entire, like, I think first 2 chapters of the book are just an internal monologue. Like, it's just him talking to himself, which I think is really interesting, and I haven't seen, up until I read this, I hadn't really seen anything like that. So yeah, that was something that is super interesting. A little bit harder to get through, like I said, but that was Notes from Underground by Dostoevsky. That's the end of the video today. I know it's a little bit different than what I normally do. Again, I apologize for this lighting. This is probably going to upload horrible quality, so I apologize in advance. If you enjoyed this, let me know. I definitely want to talk more about books on my channel in the future. So if you like this sort of thing, give me a thumbs up. That sounds so cringe, but whatever. Give me a thumbs up. And yeah, I love you guys. Peace and love. Bye.